12 hours. That's all your family has left. The words sliced through Georgetown café noise like a blade. Lobster bisque dripped from Irma Dawson's jaw, scalding cream sauce pooling in her collarbone, truffle risotto grains sliding down military fabric that had survived Kandahar but couldn't survive a Tuesday brunch with America's entitled. Michelle Harmon's iPhone trembled in her manicured hands, still recording, still capturing the moment she just ended her family's empire. Behind her, Nora Harmon's laughter died mid-cackle as the woman they drenched, the homeless vet they'd mocked, wiped soup from her face with the precision of someone who'd once defused IEDs under enemy fire. "You should have researched your target," Irma said, her voice carrying the cold authority of someone who'd briefed Pentagon generals. Cream sauce dripped onto the marble floor between them. "Gideon Harmon. Harmon and Associates. Your father's managing partner is waiting for my call right now. The contract that keeps his firm breathing." She stood. 6 feet of witnesses held their breath. "I was renewing it." Past tense. What Michelle didn't know, what none of them understood as they laughed and filmed and performed for invisible audiences, was that the woman dripping with their cruelty controlled $4.2 billion in defense contracts, owned 40% of her father's law firm, and had just been handed the perfect legal justification to dismantle everything 3 generations of Harmon privilege had built. 12 hours. The clock was already ticking. Let me take you back to 8:47 this morning. The October sun painted Georgetown's brick facades in amber warmth as Irma Dawson pushed open the door to the grounds cafe. The scent of burnt espresso and overpriced pastries hit her, familiar, comfortable, the kind of place where power brokers pretended to be accessible while discussing deals that moved millions. She'd chosen this location deliberately. Worn army jacket, her father's 82nd Airborne patch faded but visible, over what could have been a $2,000 Brioni suit if anyone bothered to look past the weathered green canvas. Scuffed combat boots that had walked through Helmand Province now walked across reclaimed wood floors. Her Rolex Daytona stayed hidden beneath her sleeve, $47,000 worth of Swiss precision concealed by habit and strategy. At 52, Irma Dawson had learned that power wore many disguises. Today's disguise was invisibility. The Georgetown University students barely glanced at her. The remote workers didn't look up from their MacBooks. The Hill staffers gossiping near the window dismissed her with a flicker of discomfort, the kind wealthy white liberals felt when confronted with visible veterans who didn't fit their charity commercial fantasies. Perfect. She claimed a corner booth, spreading contract documents across the reclaimed wood table. Dawson Defense Technologies. DDT. Her company. Built from an $8,000 VA disability check into a $4.2 billion defense contractor that made the weapon systems keeping America's enemies awake at night. Ms. Dawson. Marcus Webb appeared beside her table, cafe owner, former Marine, her business partner in the Georgetown expansion she was quietly engineering. "They're here." She didn't need to ask who. Through the window, a Porsche Cayenne Turbo pulled up. Illegal parking, hazards flashing, the universal signal of people who'd never faced consequences. Gideon Harmon emerged first. 52, silver-templed, Georgetown University legacy written into his DNA like a hereditary disease. His Omega Seamaster caught morning light, $8,000 worth of wrist jewelry on a man who'd inherited his corner office from a father who'd inherited it from a grandfather who'd built the firm on railroad money and Jim Crow legal loopholes. Nora Harmon followed. 49, former Miss Virginia runner-up who'd aged into the kind of surgical preservation that screamed, "I married money, and now it's my personality." Hermes Birkin dangling from her wrist, $85,000 worth of dead crocodile that she'd probably never carried anything heavier than a Xanax prescription. Then Michelle. 19. Georgetown University sophomore with a 2.4 GPA and a 5.0 in entitlement. Designer ripped jeans that cost more than most Americans made in a week. Oversized sunglasses hiding eyes that had never seen struggle, never known want, never understood that privilege was a loan, not a birthright. Irma watched them enter like David Attenborough observing predators, clinically, without emotion, cataloging behaviors for later analysis. They didn't see her. Of course they didn't. She was just another Georgetown fixture, the kind of person they stepped over on their way to brunch, the kind of veteran they photographed for charity events then forgot before dessert arrived. Michelle spotted her first. Irma watched the calculation happen in real time. The girl's Instagram-trained eye scanning for content opportunities. Homeless vet in upscale café, viral potential. Her followers loved that performative charity shit. Buy a coffee, snap a photo, caption it with praying hands emoji and hashtag be the change. But Nora's hand shot out, gripping her daughter's wrist. "Don't waste money on that," she hissed. Loud enough for Irma to hear. Loud enough for the barista to hear. Loud enough for the 3 tables between them to hear. These people camp in Georgetown because they know we're soft touches. It's all a scam. Irma's fingers tightened imperceptibly around her pen. 30 years of military discipline. 20 years of boardroom warfare. Decades of being underestimated, dismissed, degraded by people who looked exactly like the Harmons. Don't react. Document. Evidence first. Justice later. Gideon barely glanced up from his phone. A text illuminated his screen. Irma's enhanced vision caught fragments. Dawson Defense contract renewal. She's reviewing terms today. Everything hinges on this. His managing partner. Sterling Price. Panicking about the $8.4 million retainer that kept Harmon and Associates lights on. Gideon's thumb swiped the notification away without reading it fully. Fatal mistake number 1. Mom's right, Michelle said, louder now, performing for the invisible audience always watching through her phone. I'm tired of these people acting like they own Georgetown. Like, get a job. 3 Georgetown students nearby shifted uncomfortably. One started recording. Fatal mistake number 2. Michelle grabbed her brunch tray, $47 worth of untouched food from her bougie breakfast content shoot. Lobster bisque in white ceramic. Truffle risotto. Caramelized Brussels sprouts glistening with bacon fat. Bet she's been sitting there for hours, not even buying anything. Irma's hands remained flat on the table. Her contract documents, Harmon and Associates renewal terms, spread before her like tarot cards predicting their doom. She could stop this. Could identify herself. Could end it with 6 words, I'm Irma Dawson. Walk away. But 30 years of watching entitled white people abuse power had taught her something crucial. Some people needed to learn through consequences, not warnings. Michelle's Cartier bracelet, $12,000, 18th birthday gift, caught light as she lifted the tray. Her phone, propped in her other hand, captured everything. Vertical video. Portrait mode. The kind of framing that said this is content, not crime. Irma watched the arc of motion. Calculated trajectory. Estimated temperature. Assessed splash radius. Then decided. Let them. The lobster bisque hit first. Scalding. Cream-based. 180 degrees minimum. It crashed across her head like napalm, immediate, total, humiliating. The ceramic bowl tumbled down, dumping truffle risotto across her shoulders. Brussels sprouts bounced off her laptop keyboard, leaving grease trails across her screen. The temperature shocked her nervous system. Her skin screamed. Soup soaked through her father's jacket, the one he'd worn through Desert Storm, the one she'd promised to honor, the one now reeking of lobster and entitled cruelty. But Irma Dawson had been shot at by Taliban fighters. She defused IEDs while insurgents fired on her position. She'd negotiated with 4-star generals who tried to intimidate her with volume and stars. Hot soup. That was Tuesday. She didn't flinch. Didn't gasp. Didn't give them the satisfaction. The café went silent, that specific vacuum of sound that happens when everyone's breath gets sucked into their throats simultaneously. 37 people watched. 18 phones recorded. One security camera captured everything from 6 angles Marcus had installed last week specifically for this expansion project. And Nora Harmon's voice shattered the silence like glass. Oh my God, Michelle. Laughter. Pure, delighted laughter. You're terrible. Not horror. Not apology. Not humanity. Entertainment. Gideon's chuckle joined his wife's. Boys will be boys. Well, girls will be girls. He lifted his own phone, filming now, capturing his daughter's performance for his law partner's group chat. At least she picked the right target. These homeless camps are getting out of control in Georgetown. Michelle leaned down, phone still recording, close enough that Irma could smell her Chanel perfume mixing with lobster bisque. What's wrong? Cat got your tongue. The girl's voice dripped with the same entitled mockery Irma had heard from drill sergeants who thought women didn't belong in combat. Or are you gonna thank me for the free meal? The cafe held its breath. Marcus Webb gripped the edge of his counter, knuckles white, waiting for Irma's signal. Colonel Patricia Reeves, off-duty Pentagon official in the back corner, recognized Irma despite the soup, her eyes widening with the slow horror of someone watching a car crash in progress. And Irma Dawson, CEO of a $4.2 billion defense contractor, dripping with soup and privilege and 3 generations of Harmon cruelty, made her choice. She looked up. Cream sauce dripped from her jaw. Truffle risotto slid down her neck. Her father's jacket, the one that had survived war, couldn't survive brunch. And she smiled. Not the warm smile she used for shareholders. Not the professional smile she deployed in Pentagon briefings. The smile she'd learned in Kandahar when enemy combatants thought they had her cornered. The smile that said, "You just brought a knife to a drone strike. Your parents are Gideon and Nora Harmon." Irma's voice cut through the silence like a scalpel. Calm. Measured. Each word precise. Harmon and Associates. Q Street office. Corporate law. Defense contracts. Gideon's phone slipped slightly in his hand. "You're Michelle. Georgetown University. Sophomore. Legacy admission. $12 million trust fund that vests in 6 years." Michelle's smirk flickered. "You should have done your research before choosing your target." Irma stood. Soup dripped onto designer boots worth more than Michelle's monthly allowance. Risotto grains pattered against marble like rain. "Because in 12 hours, you won't have a trust fund to vest. Your parents won't have a law firm to run. And you'll be Googling how to apply for student loans while your Instagram followers watch you learn what consequences taste like." The cafe erupted in gasps. Phones pivoted from Michelle to Irma. Recording angles shifted. Gideon's face drained of color. Who the hell do you think? Your managing partner is waiting for my call right now." Irma wiped cream sauce from her jaw with deliberate calm, never breaking eye contact. "The contract that keeps your firm alive? The $8.4 million retainer from Dawson Defense Technologies." She watched realization dawn like sunrise over a war zone. "I was planning to renew it." Past tense. Nora's phone lowered slowly. Her laughter died. "I'm Irma Dawson. The homeless vet you just humiliated owns 40% of your husband's firm, controls half the defense contracts in D.C., and just received video evidence of your family assaulting me." She stepped past Michelle, soup trailing behind her like a verdict. "Your daughter filmed it. You encouraged it. You performed it for social media. That's premeditation, documentation, and distribution. My lawyers will have fun with that." Marcus Webb appeared with her laptop bag, already dried and secured. "I'll be calling Sterling Price from my car. By the time you get home, your firm's biggest client will be your biggest problem." Irma paused at the door, turned back. The entire cafe watched. 18 phones recorded. One security camera captured the moment for eternity. "Welcome to consequences. Population, you." Irma's Tesla pulled away from the grounds cafe at 9:47 a.m. By 9:51 a.m., Marcus Webb's security footage was uploading to cloud servers. By 9:53 a.m., Irma was on the phone with Sterling Price. "Sterling. Irma Dawson. We need to discuss the renewal." "Ms. Dawson. Yes, I was just about to. I'm canceling it. Effective immediately." Silence. Then, I don't understand. Was there a problem with? Ask Gideon what happened at the grounds cafe this morning. Ask him why his family thought assaulting me would be consequence-free entertainment. What? You'll see the video soon. Everyone will. She checked her rearview mirror. The Porsche Cayenne was still parked illegally outside the cafe. Contract termination notice will be in your inbox by 10 a.m. Outstanding invoices totaling $347,000 will be disputed. And I'll be recommending similar terminations across my network of 14 subsidiary contractors. Ms. Dawson, please let me. Estimated financial impact to your firm, $23.7 million annually. Non-negotiable. She ended the call. Next call, Keisha Barnes, her executive assistant. Keisha. Pull the Harmon and Associates file. Every document. Every email. Every contract clause. I want termination paperwork filed within the hour. What happened? Research failure on their part. I'll explain later. Right now, I need you to draft a statement for when this goes viral, and it will go viral. Done. Anything else? Yes. Send flowers to Marcus Webb's café. He's about to become famous. Behind her, the grounds café was erupting. Gideon had finally Googled Irma Dawson. Forbes profile. Pentagon contracts. $4.2 billion valuation. Defense Contractor of the Year. The same face. The same eyes. Different clothes. His briefcase hit the floor. Nora grabbed his arm. That was her? That was Irma Dawson. Michelle stood frozen, phone dangling from her hand, watching her viral moment transform from comedy to catastrophe in real time. The Georgetown students who'd recorded everything were already posting. Holy shit, did this rich girl just assault a billionaire CEO? That's Irma Dawson. That's literally Irma Dawson. This family is done. Within 20 minutes, #Georgetown Cafe was trending. Within an hour, the video had 340,000 views. Within 2 hours, major news outlets were calling it the entitled assault that ended a dynasty. And Irma Dawson, CEO of Dawson Defense Technologies, sat in her K Street office reviewing Harmon and Associates' termination paperwork while truffle risotto stains dried on her father's jacket. Some days, justice arrived on schedule. Today, it arrived with lobster bisque. At 11:47 a.m., Gideon's phone exploded with notifications. His managing partner. His biggest clients. His law partners. His country club. All asking the same question, what the hell did you do? But the message that made his blood freeze came from an unknown number. Mr. Harmon, my name is Laverne Hutchins. I worked in your home for 21 years. I saw what your daughter did this morning. I saw what you and your wife encouraged. And I have 21 years of evidence showing this wasn't an isolated incident. It's time someone held your family accountable. Ms. Dawson just gave me the courage to come forward. Expect to hear from my lawyer. Gideon's hands shook as he showed the message to Nora. Who the hell is Laverne Hutchins? Nora's face went white. Our old housekeeper. What evidence could she possibly? Everything. Nora's voice cracked. She saw everything. Outside their Georgetown mansion, a black Escalade with DDT corporate plates pulled up to their gate. The war hadn't just started. The war was already over. They just didn't know it yet. The black Escalade idled at the gate for exactly 43 seconds before the driver, a woman in crisp DDT corporate security uniform, stepped out. She carried a manila envelope sealed with red wax. Hand delivery. The kind of legal notice that couldn't be ignored, couldn't be claimed as lost in email, couldn't be anything except what it was, a declaration of war served on expensive cardstock. Gideon watched through his study window, Laverne's text message still burning on his phone screen. 21 years. She'd worked in their home for 21 years, moving through rooms like furniture, invisible by design and preference. What could she possibly have documented? Sign here. The security officer's voice carried through the intercom. Their housekeeper, the new one, hired after Laverne left, buzzed her through without consulting anyone. 30 seconds later, the envelope sat on Gideon's mahogany desk like a primed grenade. Notice of contract termination, Dawson Defense Technologies. His hands shook as he broke the seal. The document was surgical. No emotion. No dramatics. Just cold legal precision that stripped away $8.4 million in annual revenue with the efficiency of a scalpel removing a tumor. Pursuant to Section 12.4. Conduct by senior partners that conflicts with our corporate values, immediate termination, no severance period, outstanding invoices, $347,000, will be disputed. Recommend similar terminations across our network of 14 subsidiary defense contractors. Estimated financial impact, $23.7 million annually. At the bottom, Irma Dawson's signature. Not scanned. Hand-signed. She'd taken the time to physically ink her name onto the document ending his career. Below that, a single line in smaller font, evidence of assault documented and preserved. Legal counsel advised. Nora appeared in the doorway, face pale beneath her foundation. Georgetown is calling. Dean's office. They want Michelle to come in for a meeting about potential violations of student conduct code. When? Tomorrow morning. 9 a.m. Her voice cracked. They said it's regarding an incident that's created significant reputational concern for the university. Gideon's phone erupted. Not buzzed. Erupted. 15 notifications in 10 seconds. Twitter. Instagram. TikTok. Facebook. The video was everywhere. Not just Marcus Webb's security footage. That would have been manageable. 18 different angles. 18 different phones. 18 different witnesses filming Michelle pour $47 worth of soup on a woman worth $4.2 billion. Hashtag Georgetown Café, 847K tweets. He scrolled through with mounting horror. Entitled Rich Brat Assaults Veteran CEO and films it. This is why we eat the rich. Someone ID this family. They need to face consequences. Update. That's Gideon Harmon's daughter. Lawyer at Harmon and Associates. His firm just lost their biggest client because of this. The identification had taken less than 2 hours. Georgetown students recognized Michelle. Her Instagram handle was in her bio. Her parents were tagged in family photos. Their address was on their law firm's website. The internet was fast. The internet was thorough. The internet was merciless. Gideon. Nora's whisper cut through the scrolling nightmare. Sterling's here. Sterling Price burst into the study without knocking, a breach of protocol that told Gideon everything before a single word was spoken. His managing partner's usually immaculate appearance had deteriorated in the 3 hours since Irma's call. Tie askew. Hair disheveled. The look of a man watching his life's work crumble. 3 clients have terminated as of 1 p.m. Sterling's voice shook. Vanguard Systems, Potomac Defense Group, and Capital Strategic Partners. All citing concerns about our firm's judgment and ethics. That's $4.7 million in annual revenue. Gone. He threw a tablet onto Gideon's desk. Email after email. 5 more are reviewing their relationship with us. The Bar Association received a formal complaint, anonymous, but detailed. They're opening an investigation into our billing practices. And Sterling's voice dropped. The Veterans Hope Foundation, Nora's charity, the IRS just announced an audit. They received an anonymous tip about financial irregularities. Nora grabbed the desk edge for support. How? Gideon's voice came out strangled. How could she do all this in 3 hours? Because she's Irma Dawson. Sterling's laugh was bitter. She has the Pentagon on speed dial. She sits on 5 corporate boards. She controls half the defense contractors in D.C. And you, your family, assaulted her on camera while she was reviewing our contract renewal terms. He pulled up another screen. Forbes article, published 20 minutes ago. Irma Dawson assault, when entitled privilege attacks power. Beneath the headline, split-screen images. Left side showed Michelle pouring soup, Nora laughing, Gideon filming. Right side showed Irma's professional headshot, uniform, medals, American flag backdrop. The contrast was devastating. The worst part. Sterling's finger trembled as he scrolled. This isn't even her first move. This is a warning shot. She's letting us see what's coming before she actually destroys us. Gideon's desk phone rang. His secretary, Mr. Harmon, Chevy Chase Club is calling. They need to speak with you urgently about your membership status. Another buzz. American Express, your corporate card has been declined due to unusual spending patterns. Please contact our fraud department. Another. Bank of America, your business line of credit, $2.3 million, is under review due to sudden revenue instability. The dominoes weren't just falling. They were being systematically toppled by someone who knew exactly which one to push first. There's something else. Sterling pulled out his phone, hands shaking as he found the message. I got this 20 minutes ago. An email. Encrypted. From an address that looked like random characters. Subject, you need to know what's really coming. Mr. Price, my name is Laverne Hutchins. I worked for the Harmon family from 1998 to 2019. What happened today at that cafe wasn't an isolated incident. It was a pattern 21 years in the making. I have documentation, journals, recordings, evidence of discrimination, wage theft, and systematic abuse. I stayed silent because I needed the job. But watching that video this morning, watching them laugh while humiliating someone who served our country, I can't stay silent anymore. Ms. Dawson's lawyer will be contacting you tomorrow. I'm prepared to testify about everything I witnessed. The Harmons taught their daughter to be cruel. It's time someone held them accountable. The room went silent except for Gideon's laptop fan whirring. Laverne. Quiet, invisible Laverne who'd cleaned their toilets and cooked their meals and overheard their conversations for 21 years. Nora sank into a chair. She was always in the house. Every room. Every dinner party. Every private conversation. What did she hear? Sterling demanded. Nora's eyes filled with tears. Everything. Outside, car doors slammed. Gideon moved to the window. 3 news vans were setting up on the street, satellite dishes extending, cameras being assembled, reporters checking makeup in car mirrors. A CNN van. Fox News. Local NBC affiliate. His phone rang again. Unknown number. He answered without thinking. Hello. Mr. Harmon, this is Rebecca Chun from the Washington Post. I'm writing a story about the Georgetown café incident, and I wanted to give you an opportunity to comment. Specifically, we've received reports that this wasn't an isolated incident, that there's a pattern of discriminatory behavior by your family toward service workers. Can you respond to these allegations? Gideon hung up. Immediately, another call. Different reporter. Same questions. Then another. And another. The feeding frenzy had begun. Sterling gathered his things. I'm calling an emergency partners meeting for tonight. We need to discuss damage control. And Gideon. He paused at the door. You should probably get a criminal defense attorney. Not corporate. Criminal. Criminal? For what? Assault and battery. It's on video. And if what Laverne Hutchins says is true about wage theft and discrimination, those aren't just civil matters. He left. Gideon and Nora sat in silence, watching news vans multiply outside their gate like bacteria under a microscope. Michelle burst in, phone in hand, mascara-streaked face confirming she'd finally grasped the magnitude of her mistake. Dad, they're in the comments. All of them. My followers. They're saying I'm disgusting. They're unfollowing me. My sorority group chat kicked me out. They're calling me a racist. They're saying, her voice broke. Harvard rescinded my acceptance for next semester. They sent an email. They said my behavior demonstrates values incompatible with our community standards. Gideon wanted to comfort her. Wanted to say it would be okay. Wanted to promise that money and lawyers and connections would fix this. But his phone buzzed again. Laverne Hutchins's lawyer, Mr. Harmon, I represent Ms. Laverne Hutchins regarding 21 years of employment with your family. We have documentation of significant wage theft and discrimination. We'd like to resolve this matter before involving federal authorities. Please respond within 24 hours. Federal authorities. The words landed like artillery shells. And somewhere across town, in a steel and glass tower overlooking the Capitol, Irma Dawson sat in her office reviewing Laverne's evidence while her father's soup-stained jacket hung on the back of her chair like a battle flag. She hadn't even begun to fight. She'd just shown them she could. Irma's office occupied the entire 14th floor of DDT headquarters, steel and glass overlooking the Capitol dome like a chess piece positioned for checkmate. She'd arrived at 10:23 a.m., still wearing her father's soup-stained jacket, still carrying her saw-stripped laptop, and every employee who passed her in the corridor had the good sense not to comment. Keisha Barnes waited at Irma's private elevator, fresh towel in hand. Former Marine. 3 tours. The kind of executive assistant who understood that some battles required silence and preparation, not questions. Cancel the 11 o'clock with Senator Whitmore. Reschedule my Pentagon briefing to tomorrow. Irma wiped lobster bisque from her neck with deliberate strokes. And get me Harmon and Associates full contract on screen. Every clause. Every renewal term. Every penalty for early termination. Keisha's eyes gleamed with the recognition of someone who'd served under fire. What happened? Research failure. Irma dropped the jacket on her desk, her father's jacket, the one she wore when she needed to remember where she came from. Now it smelled like lobster and entitled cruelty. They forgot the first rule of warfare: know your enemy. Within 8 minutes, her legal team assembled. 3 lawyers who specialized in contract termination, 2 who handled public relations nightmares, and 1 who existed solely to find loopholes in documents other lawyers thought were airtight. Irma stood at the head of her conference table, sleeves rolled up, bisque stains visible on her white shirt like battle scars. I need termination paperwork for Harmon and Associates. Immediate. No severance. Every subsidiary contractor in our network gets the same recommendation. And I want it filed before lunch. Her chief counsel, Raymond Park, pulled up the contract on the main screen. Section 12.4 gives us immediate termination rights for conduct violations. They've given us cause, assault documented by multiple witnesses, filmed by the perpetrators themselves. Draft it. I'll review in 5 minutes. By 10:47 a.m., the email was ready. Irma read it once. Made 2 edits. Added her hand signature using the digital pad that cost more than most people's cars. Then pressed send. The email that would cost Harmon and Associates $23.7 million annually traveled through fiber optic cables at the speed of light, arriving in Sterling Price's inbox with a subtle ping of a grenade landing at his feet. Across town, Sterling was eating a turkey sandwich at his desk when his computer chimed. He glanced at the subject line. The sandwich dropped. Simultaneously, Marcus Webb posted from the Grounds Café's verified account. The video, 6 angles, high definition, crystal clear audio, showed everything. Michelle's Cartier bracelet catching light. Soup arcing through air. Nora's delighted laughter. Gideon's phone filming. Irma's face, stone cold and dripping, delivering her verdict with surgical precision. Caption: to the family who assaulted a customer in our cafe this morning, you're banned for life. To the veteran they targeted, your coffee is free forever. We stand with those who served. The internet moved fast. Within 20 minutes, 340,000 views. Within 40, Georgetown students had identified Michelle through her Instagram handle visible in a screenshot. Within an hour, the Harmon family's address, Gideon's law firm, Nora's charity, and Michelle's sorority affiliation were trending alongside the video. The comments section became a courtroom where 12 million jurors delivered their verdict. Who does this to a veteran? Name and shame. That woman's face. She didn't even flinch. Respect. Rich people really think they can do anything. Update: that's Irma Dawson. Billionaire CEO Irma Dawson. This family just committed career suicide on camera. Michelle had posted the video to her Instagram story at 9:58 a.m., 17 minutes after the assault, with the caption "Some people really need to learn where they belong" and 3 laughing crying emojis. She deleted it at 11:15 a.m. Too late. Screenshots lived forever. 847 comments had already told her exactly what kind of person she was, using words that would make her parents clutch their pearls if they'd ever actually cared about character over appearance. Sterling Price burst into Gideon's office at 11:03 a.m. without knocking, something he'd never done in 12 years of partnership. What did you do? Gideon looked up from his sandwich, the one he'd been eating while his career disintegrated in real time. What are you talking about? Dawson Defense just terminated us. Immediately. $8.4 million retainer, gone. And she's recommending termination across her entire network. That's 40% of our revenue, Gideon. 40%. The sandwich dropped for the second time that day. She said to ask your wife what happened in Georgetown. What happened in Georgetown? Gideon's mind raced through the morning. Georgetown. The cafe. The homeless woman. Michelle's prank. Nora filming. The soup. No. No, 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 no. Pull up Dawson Defense's CEO profile. Now. Sterling's tablet showed Forbes, Irma Dawson in dress uniform, arms crossed, American flag backdrop, medals gleaming. The caption read Defense Contractor of the Year, how Irma Dawson built a $4.2 billion empire. Same face. Same eyes. Different context. That was her. Gideon's voice cracked like adolescent glass. The woman in the café was. Michelle threw food on Irma Dawson. The dominoes began falling with mathematical precision. At 11:47 a.m., Nora's phone rang. Vivian Blackwell, Veterans Hope Foundation board chair, her voice carrying the chill of a woman severing ties before the scandal metastasized. Nora, we've received a letter from Dawson Defense Technologies withdrawing their $500,000 annual sponsorship. They cited credible evidence of leadership conduct incompatible with veteran advocacy. Is there something you need to tell us? Nora's hand shook. $500,000. Half their operating budget. The gala. The fundraiser. Her salary. Gone. At 12:15 p.m., Michelle's phone lit up with Georgetown University's official number. Ms. Harmon, we've been made aware of an incident this morning that's created significant reputational concern for the university. We need you to come in tomorrow at 9 a.m. regarding potential violations of our student conduct code. The dean's assistant didn't wait for confirmation. Just provided the building and room number like reading a warrant. At 12:33 p.m., Chevy Chase Club called Gideon directly. Mr. Harmon, the club has received troubling reports about a public incident involving your family. We're placing your membership under review pending investigation. His father had been a member. His grandfather. 3 generations of Harmon men drinking scotch and discussing deals in leather chairs that smelled like old money and older privilege. Review pending. At 12:58 p.m., Marcus Chun from Vanguard Systems, their third largest client, delivered the coup de grace. Gideon, our CEO, just got off a call with Irma Dawson. She's a board member for 3 of our investors. We're going to need to transition our account to new counsel. This isn't personal, it's business. Everything was personal. Everything was business. Everything was ending. By 1:47 p.m., Nora stood in their marble foyer watching her social media presence collapse in real time. Someone had connected her Instagram to the video. Her carefully curated feed, charity galas, designer outfits, inspirational quotes about gratitude, was being buried under comments that stripped away every carefully constructed layer of respectability. Twitter thread with 45,000 retweets. Identified, the family in the viral hashtag Georgetown Café assault video are the Harmons. Gideon Harmon, corporate lawyer. Nora Harmon, runs Veterans Hope Foundation, ironic much. Michelle Harmon, Georgetown student. Let's see how fast privilege crumbles. Her charity donors were pulling funding. Her country club friends were declining calls. Her daughter was trending nationally for all the wrong reasons. Michelle ran downstairs, mascara streaked, phone clutched like a lifeline to a life that was already drowning. Mom, Georgetown suspended me pending investigation. They can't do that. Gideon emerged from his study, face ashen, carrying printouts of termination notices like obituaries for his career. They can do whatever they want. And so can Irma Dawson. Who? Nora demanded. The woman you filmed your daughter assaulting. Gideon's voice was hollow. She's worth $4.2 billion. She controls half the defense contracts in D.C. And we just gave her footage of us laughing while Michelle poured soup on her head. Silence fell like ash. Then Michelle, voice small and desperate, she was just a homeless. She OWNS this city. Gideon exploded, 12 years of carefully controlled lawyer composure shattering. She could buy our house with a week's interest. And you filmed it. You performed it for Instagram like it was content. His phone buzzed. Bank of America, your credit line, $2.3 million, has been flagged for review due to sudden income instability. Please contact us immediately. Another buzz. American Express, unusual activity detected on your account. Recent charges declined. Nora's phone. Then Michelle's. Same messages rippling through their financial infrastructure like cracks in a dam. Outside, a black Escalade with DDT corporate plates pulled up to their gate. Colonel Patricia Reeves stepped out, the Pentagon official from the café, now in full military dress uniform. She carried an envelope sealed with red wax. Hand-delivered legal notices were never good news. Through the window, they watched her approach, each step measured and deliberate, the walk of someone who delivered bad news to families before and understood the weight of what she carried. The envelope read, "Urgent legal notice." Gideon's hands started shaking. It had been 4 hours and 23 minutes since Michelle poured soup on Irma Dawson's head. Their empire wasn't cracking. It was already broken. They just hadn't finished falling yet. By 6:47 p.m., the news vans had multiplied outside the Harmon residence like cancer cells. 7 networks. Satellite dishes extended toward the sky like metal flowers seeking scandal instead of sunlight. Gideon watched from behind curtains, feeling the walls of his Georgetown mansion, 3 generations of accumulated wealth and privilege, close in like a coffin. Across town, in DDT headquarters' 14th floor executive suite, Irma Dawson sat across from a woman the Harmons had never truly seen. Laverne Hutchins. 67 years old. Pressed cardigan from J.C. Penney. Sensible shoes worn soft from years standing on marble floors that belonged to people who'd never learned her last name. She carried a battered rolling suitcase, the kind flight attendants used, practical and anonymous. "Ms. Dawson, I saw the video this morning." Laverne's hands trembled slightly as she placed the suitcase on Irma's conference table. "I knew someday someone would finally stand up to them. I just never thought." Her voice cracked. "I never imagined it would be someone with the power to actually make them face consequences." Irma leaned forward. "How long did you work for them?" 21 years. March 1998 to June 2019. Laverne unzipped the suitcase. "They let me go when Michelle graduated high school. Said they didn't need full-time help anymore. Gave me 2-week severance for 21 years. Inside the suitcase, evidence that would end a dynasty. 47 notebooks, their spines numbered in neat handwriting. USB drives labeled by year. Manila folders stuffed with photographed documents. A woman's entire working life condensed into organized proof of systematic cruelty." Laverne opened the first notebook, spiral-bound, dollar store quality, dated March 3, 1998. First day. Mrs. Harmon asked if I could read. Then laughed like it was a joke. Mr. Harmon left $40 on the counter for my weekly pay. When I said the ad promised $12 per hour for 30 hours, he said, "That's for American workers. You're lucky to get anything." I'm from Alabama. Born in Montgomery. My father fought in Vietnam. Irma's jaw tightened. She'd negotiated with Pentagon generals who tried to intimidate her with stars and volume. She'd never felt rage like this, clean, cold, focused. Laverne flipped through years of entries. Her handwriting evolved from careful print to efficient cursive, documenting the daily indignities of working for people who viewed her as animated furniture. September 2003, Michelle, age 3, threw her breakfast at me. Mrs. Harmon clapped and said, "Good girl. That's how you treat the help." Then gave her candy. February 2007, Mr. Harmon discussed a case at dinner. Said his black client was probably guilty anyway, they usually are. I served dessert. They didn't notice me listening. December 2011, Mrs. Harmon's charity gala. She posed for photos with veterans, then told me to spray Febreze before the next guests arrived because they smelled like the street. Each entry, dated and detailed. 21 years of casual cruelty documented by a woman who understood that memory fades but ink endures. I started recording them in 2009. Laverne pulled out a USB drive. When phones got cameras. They'd say things at dinner, during parties, in private conversations. They never thought about me standing there. I was invisible. She plugged the drive into Irma's laptop. 287 audio files, organized by date. The first one played. Gideon's voice, circa 2011, discussing a client over dinner. The guys from Nigeria, you know how they are. Probably trying to steal from his own company. Plant something in his office, make it look like fraud. These people can't help themselves. Nora's voice, can you do that? Legally. Gideon's laugh, legal is whatever doesn't get caught. Another file. Nora at a Veterans Hope Foundation board meeting, 2015. We need to be strategic about which veterans we feature in photos. The black ones test poorly with our donor base. Find me some clean-cut white guys, bonus if they're attractive. And make sure they're, actually disabled. Wheelchairs photograph well. Irma's team of 6 lawyers worked through the recordings with expressions ranging from disgust to professional fascination. This wasn't just evidence. This was a prosecution blueprint. Laverne produced financial documents next, 378 pages photographed with her phone camera over years of Friday afternoons when Gideon left papers on his home office printer. Tax documents showing Veterans Hope Foundation received $500,000 in corporate sponsorships last year. Administrative costs, $470,000. Nora's salary, $180,000. Designer office furniture, $85,000. Charity gala at Trump Hotel, $205,000. Actual money distributed to veterans, $30,000. 6%. She'd complain about having to attend veteran events, Laverne said quietly. Called it poverty tourism. But she loved the magazine photos. Email printouts showed Gideon instructing associates to pad billable hours for minority clients. Messages about hiding billing irregularities from the Bar Association. Correspondence proving he'd sabotaged competitor firms using stolen information. Then came the photographs. 1,247 images, organized chronologically in folders. Michelle at age 5, encouraged to throw food at the gardener. Michelle at age 8, laughing while Nora berated a housekeeper for breaking a wine glass. Michelle at age 12, posting servant problems LOL on early social media. Michelle at age 15, at a charity gala, posing with a veteran for Instagram, then deleting him from the frame before posting. 21 years of teaching a child that cruelty was privilege, that staff weren't human, that consequences were for other people. I stayed silent because I had 3 grandchildren to feed. Laverne's voice cracked, decades of suppressed pain fracturing through. My daughter died young, car accident, and those babies needed me. The Harmons paid cash under the table. No taxes. No benefits. No workers. Compensation when I threw out my back carrying their groceries. I couldn't risk losing that income. She wiped her eyes with a tissue that had seen too much use. But I documented everything. Every slur, every stolen wage, every cruel lesson they taught Michelle. I told myself, someday someone would listen. Someday someone would care. Irma reached across the desk, covering Laverne's weathered hands with her own. Hands that had scrubbed toilets for people who wouldn't learn her name. Hands that had raised 3 grandchildren on stolen wages. Hands that had preserved evidence for 21 years while waiting for justice that seemed like it would never come. They'll listen now. I promise you that. Raymond Park, Irma's chief counsel, organized the evidence into categories. His team worked through the night, coffee cooling in forgotten cups, building a case that would strip away 3 generations of carefully maintained respectability. Criminal exposure, tax fraud, wage theft totaling $470,000 across 22 domestic workers, legal malpractice, systematic discrimination documented across 2 decades. Civil exposure, lawsuit potential from 19 former employees who'd stayed silent out of fear. Bar Association ethics violations that would end Gideon's career even if criminal charges somehow failed. IRS audit triggers that would unravel Nora's charity fraud. Social exposure, 21 years of racist, classist behavior preserved in Laverne's meticulous records. Audio evidence of discrimination that would play on every news network. Photos showing a pattern of cruelty taught from parent to child like an inheritance. Irma stared at the mountain of evidence spread across her conference table. 21 years. Hundreds of victims who'd stayed silent because they had no power, no platform, no one who'd believe them over a wealthy Georgetown family. Every day, people like the Harmons get away with this because people like Laverne have no voice, she said to her team, her voice carrying the weight of every boardroom where she'd been underestimated, every Pentagon briefing where generals assumed her presence was decorative. And every day, people watch it happen and scroll past because they think they can't make a difference. She thought about the 47 witnesses in that café. 18 phones recording. How many had posted the video not because they cared about justice, but because they wanted engagement, likes, shares, the currency of performance instead of principle. But somewhere in those millions of views were people who'd watched and felt something shift. People who'd seen Laverne's life in that moment. People who understood that looking away was complicity. Truth only survived when people refused to be bystanders. At 11:34 p.m., Irma's phone buzzed against the conference table. Unknown number. DC area code. She answered on speaker. This is Dawson. Ms. Dawson, this is Sterling Price. Gideon doesn't know I'm calling. We need to talk about what he's planning to do to you. Irma's security chief, Xavier Cole, stiffened. You're in danger. He's not rational anymore. Please, I need to meet with you. Tonight. Talk now. Sterling's voice shook. He hired someone. A private investigator named Marcus Vale. Former intelligence, now does dirty work for wealthy clients. The kind who doesn't just dig up dirt. Gideon said, if I'm going down, she's coming with me. Irma's blood went cold. When? Tonight. They're going to your house. They're going to plant something, drugs, classified documents, something that triggers federal investigation. Then anonymous tip to FBI. You'll be arrested before you can destroy him. The line went dead. Xavier was already at the window. 14 floors below, a black sedan without plates circled the block once. Twice. Then disappeared into DC traffic like a shark beneath dark water. Get her to the safe house, Xavier ordered. Now. The safe house in Anacostia was a renovated row house DDT used for witness protection contracts. Nondescript brick exterior, reinforced doors, surveillance systems that could track a mosquito 3 blocks away. Xavier had moved Irma there by 1:47 a.m., taking a route that zigzagged through DC like a drunk driver avoiding checkpoints. She didn't sleep. At 6:43 a.m., her phone exploded with missed calls. 47 notifications, each one a new wound in her carefully constructed armor. Raymond Park's voice on voicemail, shaking, every bank account is frozen. Treasury Department investigation. Someone filed anonymous reports claiming DDT was involved in illegal arms deals. Assets frozen pending review, $180 million in operating capital. Frozen. Her lawyer, Marisol Chun, next, 3 lawsuits filed overnight. Sexual harassment. Hostile workplace. Breach of contract. All anonymous plaintiffs represented by, I can't believe I'm saying this, Gideon's firm. They're suing you using your own money from when they were your counsel. Xavier appeared in her doorway. Your personal credit cards declined. Your mortgage flagged for suspicious activity. Someone systematically attacking your financial infrastructure. This is coordinated. Professional. Irma sat at the folding table, still wearing yesterday's clothes, bisque stains on her collar like rust. She'd built a $4.2 billion empire from an $8,000 disability check. She'd negotiated with Pentagon generals and foreign defense ministers. She'd survived 3 combat tours. And in 12 hours, Gideon Harmon had made her look like a criminal. The morning news cycle hit at 8:07 a.m. like artillery. Washington Post headline, leaked by someone with access to sealed Treasury documents. Defense contractor under federal investigation. Dawson Defense Technologies faces allegations of illegal weapons trafficking. Fox News anchor, perfectly coiffed and morally certain. Breaking news this morning as allegations surface against Irma Dawson, the CEO who went viral for a confrontation with a Georgetown family. Sources say federal investigators are looking into potential corruption involving defense contracts. The question many are asking, was her public outrage a distraction from her own criminal activity? Social media had turned. The same platforms that elevated her to hero status 48 hours ago now tore her down with algorithmic efficiency. #Irma Dawson trending, but now with conspiracy theories blooming like toxic mold. Bot accounts flooding comments. She's playing the race card to hide crimes. Manufactured profiles claiming to be former DDT employees sharing fabricated stories of workplace abuse, discrimination, hostile environment. The speed of it was surgical. Professional. Someone had paid serious money for this level of coordinated character assassination. At 9:24 a.m., Gideon held a press conference on the steps of D.C. Superior Court. Irma watched from the safe house, Xavier standing behind her like a sentinel, both of them recognizing warfare when they saw it. Gideon stood before 30 cameras, looking haggard in a way that expensive suits couldn't hide. Nora beside him, playing the wounded wife in Chanel and pearls. Michelle in the background, eyes red from what Instagram would call crying but lawyers would call performance. My family has been terrorized for 48 hours by a woman who couldn't handle being politely asked to leave a café. His voice cracked with practiced emotion that would have won him a daytime Emmy. Yes, there was an unfortunate misunderstanding. My daughter thought Ms. Dawson was trespassing. The café owner had complained about loiterers. She overreacted in a moment of poor judgment. We apologized privately. Irma's jaw clenched so hard her teeth ached. But instead of accepting our apology, Ms. Dawson launched a vindictive campaign to destroy us financially, socially, and professionally. She's using her wealth and military connections to weaponize federal agencies against innocent Americans. He held up documents, printed emails with DDT headers, messages that looked official, damning language about intimidation and abuse of power. These are emails from Ms. Dawson's own company showing a pattern of threats and retaliation. We're filing a $50 million defamation lawsuit and calling for a full congressional investigation into her business practices. The emails were fabricated. Irma could see it from here, metadata forged, headers manipulated, sent from proxy servers designed to mimic DDT's network architecture. But they looked real enough for cable news. Real enough for Twitter. Real enough to poison the narrative. By 11:18 a.m., protesters had gathered outside Irma's Capitol Hill townhouse. 50 people holding signs that could have been printed by the same company, Warmonger Dawson. Investigate the real criminal. Stolen valor, she's no hero. Someone spray-painted her door in red, traitor. Bricks shattered 2 windows, the kind of vandalism that looked spontaneous but required organization, transportation, timing. Police arrived. Eventually. Kept neutral distance between the protesters and property, protecting the right to assemble more than the right to not have your home destroyed. At 12:47 p.m., a bomb threat emptied DDT headquarters. 450 employees evacuated to K Street, standing in business casual while news helicopters circled like vultures over roadkill. Irma's face on every screen. Not the woman who'd faced down assault with dignity. The woman accused of corruption, weapons trafficking, abuse of power. The villain. At 1:33 p.m., Irma's phone rang with a number that made her blood freeze. Evergreen Senior Care in Silver Spring. Ms. Dawson, someone called claiming to be family asking about your mother's room number, visiting hours, security protocols. We've gone into lockdown as a precaution. Her mother. 79 years old. Dementia eating her memories like acid. Purple Heart recipient who couldn't remember her own daughter's name most days, but could recite her military service number from Vietnam. Is she okay? She's frightened. Asking staff if you did something wrong. If you're in trouble. We've tried to reassure her, but... Irma closed her eyes. They'd gone after her company. Her reputation. Now her mother. This was total warfare. At 3 p.m., her board demanded an emergency video call. 11 faces on screen, none making eye contact, the universal tell of people preparing to betray you. Vincent Zhao, board chair, cleared his throat like a man about to deliver a terminal diagnosis. Irma, we need to discuss your temporary suspension as CEO pending resolution of these federal investigations. The words landed like bullets. Temporary suspension? The optics are untenable. Treasury investigation, lawsuits, protests outside our building. Our stock dropped 34% today. Partners threatening to walk. The Pentagon is reassessing our security clearances. This is all fabricated. Irma's voice rose. First time she'd lost composure since the café. Gideon Harmon is behind every single. We know it looks that way, Vincent interrupted. But we have fiduciary duty to shareholders. If even one of these allegations proves true, they won't because they're lies. Then prove it. But until then, we need you to step back. The call ended. Unanimous vote. Temporary suspension. Effective immediately. By 7:42 p.m., Irma sat alone in the safe house's dark office. City lights flickered through bulletproof windows like stars she could no longer reach. Her phone showed 200+ unread messages. Her accounts frozen. Her company doubting her. Her mother terrified in a nursing home. Her reputation shredded across every platform. 30 years since Kandahar. 30 years since the ambush that killed 6 of her unit. She'd earned 3 Purple Hearts that day. She'd carried wounded soldiers through enemy fire. She'd never felt powerless. Until now. She pulled her father's jacket from her bag, the one Michelle had drenched in soup, the one she'd worn to remember who she was. Her hands shook. Then trembled. Then she pressed her face into the fabric and screamed. Raw. Primal. The sound of someone who'd held everything together for 30 years finally shattering into pieces no one could see. Outside the office, Keisha stood guard. She'd served under Irma in Iraq. She'd seen her face down enemy fire without flinching, watched her negotiate with warlords who thought women were property, witnessed her build an empire from nothing. But this was different. The cruelest weapons aren't bullets, Keisha whispered to the empty hallway, watching her boss break through the gap in the door. They're lies that people believe because they're easier than truth. She pulled out her phone. The viral video had 4.7 million views now. Comment section split between those who remembered the original assault and those convinced by Gideon's press conference. Everyone who'd watched this happen thinking someone else would fight. Everyone who'd scrolled past thinking they couldn't make a difference. This was what happened when everyone waited for someone else to care. At 9:17 p.m., Keisha's phone rang. Unknown number. She answered cautiously. Hello. This is Sterling Price. Is Ms. Dawson available? She's not taking calls. Then listen carefully and record this. His voice shook with the fear of a man crossing a line he could never uncross. Gideon just met with someone. I followed him. A fixer named Marcus Vale. Former intelligence, now does dirty work for wealthy clients. They're planning to stage a break-in at Dawson's home tonight. Plant classified documents she shouldn't have access to. Anonymous tip to FBI. She'll be arrested for espionage. Federal crime. She'd lose everything. Security clearance, company, freedom. Keisha's blood froze. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm tired of being complicit. My brother's a veteran. What they did to her, what they're doing now, it's everything he fought against. When? 2 a.m. They're waiting for the neighborhood to sleep. You have 5 hours. The line went dead. Keisha burst into the office where Irma still clutched her father's jacket. We need to move. Now. By 10:34 p.m., they'd assembled in the safe house's cramped dining room, a space designed for hiding, not strategizing, but war made use of what it had. Irma sat at a folding table that wobbled when she leaned forward. Eyes red but clear. Jacket off for the first time in hours. Sleeves rolled up to elbows. Game face back on like armor she'd temporarily misplaced. 30 years in military and business, and I let them see me break. Her voice was steady now, carrying the controlled fury of someone who'd found their footing after a fall. That was stupid. It's also over. Around the table, Keisha Barnes, arms crossed, still wearing her DDT security badge like a declaration of loyalty. Xavier Cole, laptop open, surveillance feeds running across multiple screens. Raymond Park, exhausted but alert, financial documents spread before him like battle plans. Laverne Hutchins, hands folded, her battered suitcase resting against the wall like a loaded weapon. And Sterling Price, Gideon's former managing partner. The defector. Still wearing his suit from the office, tie loosened, looking like a man who just burned down his own house to stop a fire from spreading. They planned this for 2 weeks, Sterling said, spreading documents across the wobbling table. Bank transfers. Wire receipts. Encrypted emails he'd copied before fleeing. After the cafe incident, Gideon panicked. He knew you'd destroy him legally, so he decided to destroy you criminally first. He pulled up bank records on his laptop, Harmon and Associates' private accounts, the ones they used for things that shouldn't appear on official ledgers. He paid Marcus Vale $250,000 upfront. Another $250,000 on completion. Vale's specialty is manufacturing evidence that triggers federal investigations. He's done this for 3 senators, 2 CEOs, and a Supreme Court nominee. All still walking free because his work is that good. Irma leaned forward. The table wobbled. How does he manufacture evidence that survives federal scrutiny? He has contacts inside federal agencies, corrupt ones he's cultivated over 15 years. He plants evidence, then his contacts discover it during a routine audit or random inspection. The discovery looks organic. The evidence looks real. By the time lawyers prove fabrication, the damage is permanent. Sterling pulled up a dossier. Marcus Vale's face, hard edges, dead eyes, the look of someone who'd crossed lines so many times he'd forgotten they existed. Tonight, he plants classified DoD files in your home. Files you shouldn't have access to. Tomorrow morning, anonymous tip to FBI. By noon, you're arrested on federal espionage charges. By evening, you're headline news as a traitor who sold military secrets to foreign governments. And by next week, Xavier added, you're stripped of security clearance, removed from your company, and facing 20 years in federal prison. Silence settled over the table like fallout. Then Irma smiled. Not the professional smile she used for shareholders. The smile she'd learned in Kandahar when enemy combatants thought they had her surrounded. Show me his surveillance footage. Xavier pulled up security feeds from Irma's Capitol Hill townhouse. Vale's been casing your place for 3 days. Professional work. Thorough. Clips played across the screen. Vale posing as FedEx driver, scanning her front entrance, timing guard rotations. Vale as utility worker, photographing her security system's visible cameras. Vale as jogger, mapping escape routes through the alley behind her property. He's good, Xavier admitted. But he's arrogant. Thinks he's invisible because he's done this before. He doesn't know we spotted him on day 1, Keisha added. Every movement documented. Every angle recorded. Xavier's smile was predatory. And he definitely doesn't know we upgraded your security 2 days ago. Hidden cameras. Facial recognition. Audio recording sophisticated enough to pick up whispers from 30 feet. He pulled up the new system specs. 6 concealed cameras with 4K resolution. Audio sensitive enough to capture breathing patterns. Facial recognition that could identify someone from partial profiles. Everything he does tonight will be captured from 6 angles. Every word. Every movement. Every crime. Raymond looked confused. So we stop him before he plants the evidence? No. Irma stood, energy returning like voltage through a restored circuit. We let them execute their plan exactly as designed. You want them to plant evidence? I want them to think they planted evidence. Irma's eyes gleamed with the cold calculation of someone who'd spent 30 years outmaneuvering people who underestimated her. Xavier, can you swap out the documents they're planning to plant? Already done. Xavier pulled up another screen. Sterling gave me Vale's manifest, the exact classified files he purchased from a black market source. Real DoD documents from 2019. If FBI found them in your possession, you'd be finished. But what they'll actually plant tonight, after we intercept and swap during their approach, will be fake documents we created yesterday. Perfect replicas with one critical difference. Keisha grinned, understanding dawning. Forensic markers. Invisible ink that shows fabrication under proper analysis. Metadata timestamps showing these documents were created 48 hours ago, not 5 years ago like they're supposed to be. Digital fingerprints proving they came from Vale's known forger. So when the FBI discovers them tomorrow, Raymond said slowly, they'll find proof of a frame-up instead of proof of espionage. And we'll have 6 angles of video showing Vale committing breaking and entering, evidence tampering, and conspiracy to commit federal fraud. Laverne reached for her suitcase. I have something else. I was saving it. She pulled out an iPhone, ancient by modern standards, cracked screen, but functional. Gideon's old phone. From 2012. He threw it away when he upgraded. I kept it. Sterling's eyes widened. Does it still work? Every text message from 2010 to 2012 is still on here. Laverne's weathered fingers navigated the interface with surprising dexterity, including the ones where he discussed bribing Judge Morrison in that discrimination lawsuit, and the ones where he admitted to Nora he was billing clients for hours he never worked, and the ones where he told his partners to bury evidence from the Bar Association investigation. She placed the phone on the table like a judge's gavel. I kept it because I knew someday it might matter. Today it matters. Irma picked up the phone, scrolling through messages that would end careers, trigger investigations, prove patterns of criminal behavior spanning decades. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., we call a press conference. She pulled up her laptop, bringing up the National Press Club website. Every major outlet. Live stream. No delays, no edits, no opportunity for them to spin it before truth gets out. We present everything in order. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, building the strategy like a military operation. First, surveillance footage of Vale breaking into my home tonight. Real-time documentation of the frame-up in progress. Second, forensic analysis proving the planted documents were fabricated. Expert testimony from FBI-certified analysts showing exactly how Vale manufactured false evidence. Third, Sterling's testimony about Gideon's criminal conspiracy. Internal communications, bank transfers, the entire paper trail of how they tried to destroy me. Fourth, Laverne's 21 years of evidence. The journals. The recordings. The financial documents proving systematic wage theft and discrimination. Fifth, the charity fraud. Tax documents showing Nora stole from veterans while posing as their champion. Sixth, Gideon's old phone. Text messages proving criminal intent spanning over a decade. But most importantly, she pulled up the original café video. We play this again. And this time we explain exactly who I am, why they targeted me, and how 3 generations of privilege made them think consequences were for other people. Irma looked at each face around the wobbling table. This isn't about revenge anymore. It's about every person they've crushed. Every veteran they mocked. Every employee they stole from. Every person of color they discriminated against thinking no one would ever hold them accountable. She checked her watch. 11:47 p.m. Tomorrow, we expose everything. But tonight, we let them believe they've won. Xavier, confirm security feeds are recording. Sterling, you're in witness protection now. You don't leave this house until after the press conference. Laverne, your testimony goes on record tomorrow at 9 a.m. sharp. Keisha, prep the press release and media contacts. Raymond, call every financial institution that froze our accounts. Tell them they'll be named in our lawsuit for conspiracy if they don't unfreeze by midnight. I have documentation proving those anonymous reports came from IP addresses traced to Harmon's firm. At 1:47 a.m., motion sensors at Irma's Capitol Hill townhouse triggered silent alerts. Xavier's laptop chimed softly. 6 screens showed thermal signatures approaching through the back alley. 2 figures. One matched Marcus Vale's profile. The other, unidentified associate. 6 hidden cameras activated, switching to infrared, recording everything in crystal clarity. Audio systems captured whispered words. You sure she's not home? Positive. She's at some safe house in Anacostia. Place is empty. Let's make this quick. Plant the files in her study, stage it like she was reviewing them. We're out in 5 minutes. 3 blocks away, Xavier watched from a surveillance van, Keisha beside him recording every frame. In the safe house, Sterling provided real-time verification of Vale's identity, his hands shaking as he watched his former partner's hired criminal commit federal crimes on camera. Vale's flashlight swept across Irma's study. His voice, captured by audio sensitive enough to hear his breathing, found it. File cabinet. This is almost too easy. Xavier's voice through the team's earpieces. Hook, line, and sinker. Let them finish. We need full documentation of the crime in progress. The cameras rolled. Vale planted documents that weren't what he thought they were. And somewhere in Georgetown, in an $8.7 million mansion, Gideon Harmon slept soundly, certain that by sunrise, Irma Dawson would be destroyed. He had no idea the trap had already closed around his throat. The National Press Club's ballroom held 200 journalists by 8:47 a.m. Every major network, international press, cameras positioned like artillery waiting for the first shot. The air smelled of coffee and anticipation, that electric charge that comes before truth detonates. At 9 a.m. exactly, Irma Dawson walked to the podium. Full military dress uniform. 82nd Airborne Service dress, pressed to knife-edge perfection. Medals gleaming under television lights. 3 Purple Hearts, Bronze Star, Combat Action Badge. Decorations earned in blood and fire, not inherited through birth or purchased with wealth. She'd earned the right to wear them. Behind her, a massive screen hummed to life, projection equipment calibrated to display evidence in high definition that would survive courtroom scrutiny. No speech notes. No teleprompter. No safety net. Just truth. Good morning. My name is Irma Dawson. Her voice carried the controlled authority of someone who'd briefed Pentagon generals and negotiated with foreign defense ministers. 2 days ago, a 19-year-old girl poured hot soup on my head while her parents filmed and laughed. Since then, I've been called a vindictive bully, a corrupt CEO, and, as of last night, a traitor to my country. She let the silence build. Let cameras capture her face. Let the moment breathe. I'm here to show you what actually happened. And more importantly, why it happened. The screen behind her flickered. Marcus Vale's face appeared. Hard edges, dead eyes, the face of someone who'd crossed legal lines so many times they become invisible to him. At 2:17 a.m. last night, this man broke into my home to plant fabricated evidence that would trigger a federal espionage investigation. Surveillance footage rolled. 6 angles. Crystal clear infrared showing Vale and his associate approaching through the alley. Audio captured every whispered word with courtroom-quality clarity. Vale's voice, plant the files in her study, stage it like she was reviewing them. Gasps rippled through the press corps. Fingers flew across keyboards. Camera operators adjusted focus. He was hired by Gideon Harmon for $500,000 to manufacture evidence that would destroy me before I could expose him. More footage. Vale's gloved hands placing documents in her file cabinet. His associate photographing the scene to look like organic discovery. Every movement documented from multiple angles. What Mr. Vale didn't know, we were watching. We'd anticipated this move. And we'd already swapped the documents he was planting. Irma held up a manila folder containing classified-looking documents. These are the fake files he thought he was planting. But forensic analysis shows, the screen displayed technical reports with FBI letterhead. They were created 48 hours ago using software designed to artificially age documents. The metadata has been manipulated. The classification stamps are incorrect for the alleged time period. And most damning, they contain invisible UV tracking markers that prove they came from a black market document fabricator named Thomas Chun. She paused. Let that sink in. The FBI arrested Mr. Chin 3 hours ago. They're currently at Marcus Vale's residence in Arlington charging him with conspiracy to commit fraud, breaking and entering, and attempted obstruction of justice. Journalists erupted with questions. Irma raised one hand. Silence fell. Now let's go back to where this started. The original café footage played, Michelle pouring soup, parents laughing, Irma's face dripping with bisque while maintaining composure that had made the video go viral in the first place. This video has 47 million views. But what you didn't see was the conversation that happened 30 seconds before. New angle. Marcus Webb's enhanced security footage with audio cleaned and amplified. Nora Harmon's voice, clear as judgment, don't waste money on that. These people come to Georgetown because they know we're soft touches. Gideon Harmon, probably hasn't showered in weeks. Michelle Harmon, I'm tired of them acting like they own Georgetown. The room went silent except for the sound of 200 people realizing they'd been fed a narrative designed to obscure the truth. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was deliberate cruelty performed for social media engagement. Irma gestured toward the side entrance. This is Laverne Hutchins. She worked for the Harmon family for 21 years. Tell them what you told me, Laverne. Laverne walked to the podium, trembling slightly but with steel in her spine. Her soft Alabama accent filled the room. They paid me $40 a week for 30 hours of work. Cash. No taxes. When I asked about minimum wage, Mr. Harmon said, that's for American workers. You're lucky to get anything. I'm from Alabama. Born in Montgomery. My father fought in Vietnam. She pulled out her first journal, opening to entries that had waited 21 years to be heard. I documented everything. Every racial slur. Every stolen wage. Every time they taught Michelle to treat people like servants instead of human beings. Audio clips played. Gideon's voice from 2011, discussing a client over dinner, the guys from Nigeria, you know how they are. Probably trying to steal from his own company. These people can't help themselves. Nora's voice from a 2015 charity board meeting, We need to be strategic about which veterans we feature in photos. The black ones test poorly with our donor base. Find me some clean-cut white guys, bonus if they're attractive. The journalists weren't typing anymore. They were listening with the focused attention of people witnessing history. Nora Harmon runs Veterans Hope Foundation, a charity claiming to support veterans. Tax documents filled the screen. Last year, they received $500,000 in donations. Want to know how much actually went to veterans? Irma let the pause stretch. $30,000. 6%. The rest went to Nora's salary, luxury office furniture, and galas where she posed with veterans for photos, then complained about their smell afterward. She clicked to the next slide. The IRS opened an investigation this morning. Sterling Price approached the podium, looking like a man who'd made peace with burning down his own career to do what was right. I've worked with Gideon Harmon for 12 years. I've watched him overbill clients, steal credit from associates, and sabotage competitors using illegally obtained information. 2 weeks ago, when Ms. Dawson canceled our contract, Gideon said, "If I'm going down, she's coming with me." He hired Marcus Vail to destroy her. His voice steadied. "I'm here because I'm done being complicit." Irma returned to the podium. Every camera in the room focused on her face. 2 days ago, Michelle Harmon asked me, "What are you gonna do? You're just a homeless vet." She let the silence build like pressure in a sealed chamber. "I'm a veteran who served 3 tours defending the rights she enjoys. I'm a CEO who built a $4.2 billion company from an $8,000 disability check. I'm a black woman who's been underestimated her entire life, and I'm tired of being polite about it." The Harmons thought their wealth and privilege made them untouchable. They thought mocking a veteran would be consequence-free entertainment. They were wrong. This isn't about revenge. It's about accountability. It's about showing every person who's ever been dismissed, degraded, or destroyed by people like this, you are not powerless. Truth is power. Evidence is power. And standing up when it's hard, that's the most powerful thing of all. As if choreographed by divine timing, black FBI vehicles appeared outside the National Press Club. Through the windows, journalists watched agents enter the building directly across the street. Harmon and Associates. Irma didn't look back. She knew. The FBI is executing search warrants at Harmon and Associates as we speak. They're investigating tax fraud, wage theft, legal malpractice, charity fraud, and conspiracy to commit federal crimes. Justice isn't always fast. But when it comes, it's complete. She stepped back from the podium. One reporter shouted above the erupting chaos, "Ms. Dawson, what would you say to Michelle Harmon if she were here right now?" Irma paused. Turned back. "I'd tell her the same thing I tell every young person. Your parents' money can't buy character. Their connections can't buy integrity. And their lawyers can't buy redemption. Those are things you have to earn." She held up her phone, projecting a text message onto the screen. "You ruined my life, you vindictive bitch. I hope you're happy. My dad says we're going to sue you for everything, and I'll make sure everyone knows you're a liar." Sent at 8:42 a.m. 23 minutes ago. I don't think that day is today. The room erupted. In Georgetown, Gideon Harmon watched the press conference on 7 screens simultaneously, every news channel covering it live, every frame destroying what 3 generations had built. His face drained of color like water from a broken vessel. Nora screamed at the television, her carefully maintained composure shattering into hysteria. Michelle refreshed her social media, followers dropping by thousands, every post buried under comments calling her everything she'd earned. Outside their mansion, they heard sirens. Getting closer. The sirens stopped outside their gate at 11:43 a.m. 14 FBI vehicles. 30 agents in tactical gear. News helicopters circling overhead like vultures that had been waiting 3 days for the feast to begin. Across town at Harmon and Associates, Gideon stood at his office window watching federal agents flood the lobby. 14 floors below, they moved with the choreographed precision of people who'd done this before, who knew exactly where evidence would be hidden, who had search warrants thick enough to survive any legal challenge. He tried the back exit. Locked. Agents already positioned. He tried his private elevator. Dead. Shut down remotely. The parking garage. That was his only shot. Gideon ran. 52 years old, designer shoes slapping against concrete, $3,000 suit jacket flapping behind him, briefcase banging against his legs like an anchor he couldn't release. 50 feet from his Porsche. 30. 15. FBI. Stop. He didn't. Fatal mistake. The agent tackled him from behind with the efficiency of someone trained to bring down threats. Gideon's feet left the ground. Time slowed. Then his face met rough concrete with a crack that would replay on every news network for the next 72 hours. Blood spurted from his nose. His Omega Seamaster, $8,000, the same watch he'd checked while laughing at Irma in the café, shattered against concrete. Crystal fragments scattered like his reputation. Handcuffs clicked. Cold steel against wrists that had never known restraint. Gideon Harmon, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, witness tampering, tax evasion, and obstruction of justice. News helicopters captured every second. The prestigious Georgetown lawyer face down in his own parking garage, hands cuffed behind his back, blood pooling beneath his face, briefcase spilling documents across oil-stained concrete. The perp walk would trend for days. Simultaneously, federal agents arrived at Veterans Hope Foundation offices, a luxury Penn quarter suite that cost more per month than Laverne had earned in a year. Nora sat at her designer desk, frantically deleting emails. Her manicured fingers flew across the keyboard with desperate speed. Mrs. Harmon, step away from the computer. She looked up. 3 agents. Badges out. Her world ending in real time. Do you know who I am? My husband will sue every one of you. Your husband is currently being processed at FBI headquarters. The lead agent's voice carried no emotion. You're under arrest for charity fraud, tax evasion, and money laundering. This is ridiculous. I demand my lawyer. She grabbed her Hermes Birkin, $85,000 worth of dead crocodile, and swung it at the nearest agent. The bag connected with his shoulder. That charge got added immediately, assaulting a federal officer. Her perp walk was everything social media could have hoped for. Designer heels clicking against marble. Chanel suit rumpled from struggle. Mascara running down her face like war paint smeared by defeat. Flashbulbs exploding. Cameras capturing every angle of privilege meeting consequences. At Georgetown University, Michelle sat in Dean Patricia Whitmore's office at 12:33 p.m. Her lawyer wasn't her father. He was unavailable, processing at FBI headquarters. Instead, a nervous associate from a discount firm sat beside her, charging $200 an hour instead of the $800 her father's partners commanded. Dean Whitmore placed documents on the desk with the finality of a judge delivering a sentence. Ms. Harmon, this is your formal expulsion letter. Effective immediately. Your behavior violated our student conduct code, our value statement, and brought significant disrepute to this institution. You can't do this. My family built the Harmon Library. Your family's name will be removed from the library by end of day. We're refunding their donation and severing all ties. I'll sue. With what money? The dean's voice was surgical. Your trust fund was frozen this morning as part of your parents' asset seizure. Your credit cards declined. Security will escort you to collect your belongings. You have 2 hours. Michelle's face crumbled. The reality finally penetrating layers of privilege that had insulated her from consequences for 19 years. The financial collapse happened with mathematical precision. At 1:15 p.m., Harmon and Associates parent company trading halted after a 78% drop. Partners abandoned ship. Clients terminated contracts. The building lease went into default. At 2 p.m., foreclosure proceedings initiated on their Georgetown mansion. Bank of America's Private Wealth Division called in the $2.3 million credit line. Property assessment, $8.7 million. Outstanding debts, $4.2 million. Net worth evaporating faster than water on hot concrete. At 2:30 p.m., every credit card declined. Chevy Chase Club revoked membership, demanding $85,000 in unpaid dues. Michelle's Mercedes G-Wagon was repossessed from Georgetown campus parking lot while she watched, carrying her belongings in a cardboard box. Social media executed them with viral efficiency. Hashtag Harmon family trending worldwide, 2.4 million tweets. Privilege has consequences memes everywhere. Michelle's influencer account hemorrhaging followers. 47,000 to 12,000 to 3,000 in under 4 hours. Sponsors canceling partnerships. Friends deleting photos. Her digital existence erased as thoroughly as her family's reputation. Georgetown social circles turned vicious. Group chat messages leaked to press. Can't believe we defended them. Thank God we never hired them. Michelle always seemed awful tbh. Nora's charity friends released statements with the speed of people fleeing a sinking ship. We were unaware of fraudulent practices. Our organization severs all ties. We support real veteran advocacy. At 4:47 p.m., federal prosecutors announced charges. Gideon Harmon, tax fraud, 12 counts, charity fraud, 8 counts, wire fraud, 23 counts, witness tampering, 4 counts, conspiracy, 6 counts, obstruction of justice, 3 counts. Total potential sentence, 45 to 60 years. Bail, $5 million. Assets frozen. Couldn't post. Nora Harmon, charity fraud, 8 counts, tax evasion, 15 counts, money laundering, 6 counts, assault on federal officer, 1 count. Total potential sentence, 30 to 40 years. Bail, $3 million. Assets frozen. Couldn't post. Michelle Harmon, no criminal charges yet, but civil lawsuits mounting. Irma Dawson, $10 million defamation. Laverne Hutchins, $2 million battery and emotional distress. 14 former employees. Class action wage theft. Institutional rejection came swift and total. D.C. Bar Association suspended Gideon's license pending ethics investigation. Permanent disbarment recommended upon conviction. Chevy Chase Club terminated the Harmon family membership. Removed their names from donor plaques. Georgetown University Alumni Association erased them from legacy registry. Returned all donations. Evening news at 6:30 p.m. led with split-screen imagery that would define the story. Left side showing Gideon's bloody face during arrest. Right side showing Irma's dignified press conference. Every network. Every angle. Every channel telling the same story of privilege meeting justice. Headlines scrolled, from café to handcuffs, how one woman took down a dynasty. Veterans Justice, Irma Dawson exposes decades of fraud. Privilege shattered, Georgetown families fall from grace. At 8, text message, Ms. Dawson, this is Michelle. Can we talk? Please. I'm alone. I have nowhere to go. My parents won't even take my calls from jail. I'm staying at a motel in College Park with $87 to my name. I know I don't deserve your help. But I don't know who else to ask. I'm scared. Irma stared at the message. Keisha appeared in her doorway. Don't tell me you're actually considering. She's 19. Her parents poisoned her with privilege and entitlement. She made a terrible choice. But does she deserve to be destroyed forever? She poured soup on your head and called you homeless. She did. And her parents applauded. And now they're in federal prison, and she's in a motel room with no skills, no money, and no future. Irma's finger hovered over the reply button. She remembered being 19. Remembered feeling powerless. Remembered the army giving her a second chance when no one else would. She started typing. What she wrote would shock everyone who thought they knew how this story would end. Meet me at DDT tomorrow. 9 a.m. Come ready to work. Not ready to talk. Irma pressed send before doubt could intervene. 1 week later, DDT headquarters buzzed with the energy of resurrection. 450 employees filled the main atrium for an all-hands meeting, the kind called when companies either announce layoffs or victory. This was victory. Irma stood before them in a navy suit that didn't smell like lobster bisque, didn't carry the weight of false accusations, didn't bear any trace of the week that had tried to destroy her. I want to thank every person in this room. You stood by me when the world questioned my integrity. You trusted truth over headlines. And because of you, we're stronger than ever. Raymond Park stepped forward, laptop displaying financial reports that told a story of vindication written in numbers. Our stock recovered fully. We're up 23% from pre-crisis levels. 6 new defense contracts signed this week, worth $340 million combined. Partners who pulled out. He smiled. They're begging to return. We're not accepting. Applause erupted. Not the polite golf clap of corporate meetings, but genuine celebration from people who'd weathered a storm and emerged stronger. Our reputation for integrity just became our most valuable asset, Irma continued. Turns out, standing up to corruption is good business. 3 days after the arrests, the Secretary of Defense called personally. Ms. Dawson, on behalf of the Department of Defense, I want to apologize for the cloud of suspicion that briefly surrounded you. Our investigation confirmed what we should have known from the start. You're one of the most ethical contractors we've ever worked with. Thank you, sir. We're fast-tracking approval for your new satellite defense contract. $1.2 billion. You earned it. Forbes published their cover story at week's end, Irma Dawson, the CEO who turned humiliation into justice. The photo shoot placed her outside the grounds café in full military dress uniform, standing where Michelle had poured soup, where everything had changed. The excerpt would be quoted for years. In an age where corporate accountability feels like fantasy, Dawson proved that power without integrity is temporary, but integrity with evidence is unstoppable. The D.C. mayor declared October 15 Irma Dawson Day, honoring her service and courage. The proclamation hung in DDT's lobby, but Irma kept her copy in her desk drawer, next to her father's Purple Heart. At the grounds cafe, Marcus Webb made an announcement to 50 gathered veterans. Thanks to an anonymous donation, he gestured to Irma standing in the back, trying unsuccessfully to remain inconspicuous. We're launching the Veterans First initiative. Any veteran eats free here. Forever. And we're hiring 5 veterans as full-time staff with full benefits. Standing ovation. Tears. The kind of moment that reminded everyone why the fight had mattered. Social media shifted again. #ThankYouIrma trending with stories that multiplied like seeds finding soil. She didn't just win, she showed us how to fight back with dignity. My boss treated me like the Harmons treated her. Watching this gave me courage to report them. Update, he was fired. To every black woman told to stay quiet, this is your blueprint. 2 weeks after the arrests, Irma stood at the National Press Club again. This time, Laverne beside her. Sterling behind them. 14 former Harmon employees creating a wall of witnesses. Today, I'm announcing the Laverne Hutchins Justice Fund. $50 million initial commitment from Dawson Defense Technologies. Laverne's weathered hands trembled as tears ran down her face. This fund will provide legal support, financial assistance, and advocacy for domestic workers, veterans, and anyone facing discrimination by wealthy employers who think they're above accountability. But this is about more than money. It's about making sure what the Harmons did, to Laverne, to me, to countless others, never happens in silence again. 3 weeks later, at a groundbreaking ceremony, Irma handed Laverne a ceremonial shovel. The location, the former Veterans Hope Foundation office, seized by the IRS, auctioned for pennies on the dollar. Irma had purchased it for $1. Now it would become the Laverne Hutchins Center for Worker Justice. Free legal clinic. Veterans Services. Whistleblower protection. Training center for domestic workers' rights. Laverne broke the first ground, hands shaking. I spent 21 years being invisible in that family's house. Now my name will stand for something that matters. 1 month after arrests, Gideon and Nora Harmon pled guilty to reduced charges in exchange for cooperation against other conspirators. Gideon, 12 years federal prison. Nora, 8 years federal prison. Assets liquidated. Georgetown mansion sold. Proceeds distributed to 47 victims. Country club memberships, cars, jewelry, all auctioned. Total restitution, $8.7 million. Michelle had shown up at DDT the morning after Irma's text. No designer clothes. No makeup. Just fear and desperate hope worn like ill-fitting armor. Irma put her in the mailroom. Minimum wage. No special treatment. No exceptions. For 6 months, Michelle worked in silence. Arrived early. Stayed late. Learned the names of janitors her mother wouldn't have acknowledged. Never complained. Never asked for favors. One afternoon, Irma called her to the 14th floor office where everything had begun. Michelle entered, terrified. Sit. Michelle sat. I've been watching you. Your supervisor says you're reliable. Humble. You haven't missed a day. I'm trying to earn my way back from who I was, ma'am. Why? Michelle's voice cracked. Because watching my parents. Michelle's hands shook taking the envelope. Why are you doing this? Because the army gave me a second chance when I was 19 and lost. Someone believed I could be better than my circumstances. You poured soup on my head because your parents taught you people like me don't matter. Now you have a choice. Prove them right by staying bitter and entitled, or prove them wrong by becoming someone worth respecting. Tears streamed down Michelle's face. Thank you. Don't thank me. Earn it. And don't you dare waste this opportunity. 8 months after Soup met military jacket, the grounds café reopened after renovations. Memorial wall featuring photos of veterans, including Irma's father, 82nd Airborne, Desert Storm, the man whose jacket had survived war but not Georgetown brunch. Irma stood at the same table where everything had changed. Marcus Webb raised a glass. To the woman who reminded us that dignity can't be stolen, only surrendered. And she never surrendered. 200 people cheered. Veterans, former employees, community members, journalists who'd covered the story and stayed for the transformation. Michelle stood in back wearing a DDT employee badge. Part-time admin assistant. Working her way through school. She caught Irma's eye. Mouthed, "Thank you." Irma nodded once. The work continued. As celebration wound down, a young veteran approached, barely 22, Purple Heart visible on his jacket. "Ma'am, I was homeless 3 months ago. Sitting outside this cafe. Someone threw coffee at me, told me to get a job." His voice shook. "I wanted to give up. But then your video went viral. And I thought, if she can stand up after that, maybe I can too. I got help. Got housing. Got a job. I start classes next semester." Irma's eyes filled. "What's your name?" "Marcus. Marcus Terrell." "Marcus, every person who sees injustice and looks away makes it easier for the next person to suffer. Thank you for not looking away from your own fight." This story didn't end when Irma won. It continued every time someone chose courage over comfort, truth over silence. Irma walked out into Georgetown evening air. Same streets. Same neighborhood. Everything different. Her phone buzzed. "Keisha, board meeting next week, voting to expand Hutchins Fund to 10 cities. Unanimous support." Justice wasn't a moment. It was momentum. She pulled on her father's jacket, professionally cleaned but still showing faint bisque stains. Some things shouldn't be erased. They should be transformed. Behind her, through cafe windows, Michelle cleared tables alongside veterans the fund employed. Working. Learning. Becoming someone different than the girl who'd thought cruelty was entertainment. Redemption wasn't guaranteed. But it was possible. And that possibility was the most powerful legacy of all. 1 year later, an encrypted email arrived. "Ms. Dawson, my name is Patricia Chun. I worked for Senator Richard Blackwell for 15 years. What happened to you at that cafe? It happened to me too. But my abuser has Senate protection. I have evidence. Decades of it. And I'm ready to speak. Can you help me fight someone even more powerful than the Harmons?" Irma read it twice. Then forwarded to Laverne, Sterling, and Keisha with one line. "Team, we're not done yet. This is bigger than Georgetown. Meet me at headquarters. Tomorrow. 6 a.m. Because Michelle was just the beginning.